I had to tell them and go and say, what the F is going on, you guys?
Just when I thought things couldn't get more frustrating, I got squatters in the house I'm trying to buy. And in this video, I'm gonna walk all of us exactly through what the heck is going on, lawsuit and this, and trying to buy a deal and lockdown and all this nastiness. I gotta put on the stormtrooper crap and go take care of business. And I did just say stormtrooper crap. Last month, I posted a video filming Lauren's reaction to a house I bought without her even seeing it or really knowing about it until, well, I kind of broke the news to her that we were in escrow and we were buying it.
Okay, wait, I want to revise it.
No, you can't revise. 5:30.
No way. I was gonna revise upward. That's insane.
You can see that reaction linked below. In that video, I actually talk about how there were multiple offers on the deal, that I was buying the deal for $530,000, and that the property is probably worth somewhere around $670,000 fixed up. I walked through all the comps and everything. Take a look at that video, it's a great video. But I wanna fast forward to the last week of the deal because that's where things started getting a little janky. Oh, and since I know most of you ain't gonna look at the old video, let me just tell you this. If the place is worth $670,000 today, based on other sales in the neighborhood, and I'm all in on the deal for $580,000, that creates something called a wedge of $90,000. That's cool, that's insulation, right? And in crazy times like these, you wanna be able to protect yourself by getting stuff below market value, so that way if market value goes down, hopefully you're not upside down. Although I'm sure I'll get a ton of comments from people going, "Woo, just wait, Kevin, just wait." That's all right, I will wait. But aside from the drama that I'm about to tell you about, a deal like this is the perfect kind of wedge deal that you wanna get in. That way, if you're putting 5% down, and even if you borrowed all of the money to fix the place up, that is, you only put $25,000 into the deal, you borrowed the $50K to fix it up, once you're done fixing it up, you'd have almost 20% equity in the place, even though you only put 5% down. All right, let's get into the drama. That's the more fun part. These are the numbers, we get that out of the way. Now, the squatter part and how to deal with it. So here's the scoop, this deal's been going on forever. And a week before the deal was supposed to close, I go there and check out the place and I'm like, oh, there's a lot of stuff still here. I don't even see any moving boxes. You guys sure you're gonna be out when it's time to close on Tuesday? I think this was like a Thursday. It's like, you guys all gonna be out on Tuesday? I don't look like you're trying really hard. So I started getting a little nervous, but hey, I kept up my end of the deal. So Tuesday morning rolls around, and I'm a kind of a suspicious person. I don't know, maybe it's a bad thing that I'm such a suspicious person, but look, here's how this ended up playing out, okay? On Monday, I contacted that neutral third-party escrow company. I said, hey, I know we're supposed to close on Tuesday, but would you mind releasing the recording on hold? Hold is basically a way for you to let the escrow company know that you want to go verify something, but they can still make the closing happen that day. So I was told, no problem, Kevin, we will not close the deal until we get an email confirmation from you. And if you want to close on Tuesday, we need that confirmation by 12 p.m. via email. So what did I do? I scheduled another walkthrough for, guess when? 11:30 that morning. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you might already know what I saw on Tuesday morning. But if you don't follow me on Instagram, here's what I saw on Tuesday morning. As you can see, the garage is full of stuff. There are old cars in the driveway. There's a random pod in the driveway. There's a bunch of trash in the landscaping. And then I'm like, well, let's see the inside. I mean, it's one thing if it's all outside, but let's see the inside. I go inside, and this is a really bad shot, but you can kind of see this frame by frame. People are sitting there on couches watching TV. There are mattresses. There's stuff everywhere. People are still living there, and I'm like, I got 30 minutes to let the escrow company know that y'all are out of here and we're closing this deal. There's not even anybody working here right now. Where are the workers? Oh, well, you came during the lunch hour. And I go, we ain't closing. Now, I don't know if that's exactly what I sounded like. Maybe it is. But my rule is I will not close a deal. And this is where it gets real juicy and fun. But I will not close a deal unless either I've qualified the tenants and I'm okay keeping them, or the people are out. I will not inherit humans, especially going into lockdown mode in California. That's the worst time, especially when evictions are on hold. I'd be screwed if somebody decided to stay in the property. That is, I close the deal and now I own it. People stay in the property, and then I'm screwed. They're not paying rent. I don't know who they are. I don't know their socials. The one person was apparently renting to a roommate, and I'm like, well, so I got two tenants basically. I'm not inheriting that, especially at a time like this. Now, I oftentimes have people ask me questions, and we talk about this in the course, obviously linked below. People ask me, Kevin, but what about in multifamily? Yeah, every single tenant gets screened, and if they don't pass my screening, they're out. I don't buy a place inheriting problems unless I'm willing to evict. And in California, I ain't willing to evict. And I can't even evict if I wanted to right now. And look, I mean, parts of the country are different, right? You want to do an eviction in Texas. I mean, there are Texan ways to do an eviction where things happen to move pretty fast. But it don't work that way in California. Remember, folks, Furio from The Sopranos did not work in California. Now here's the money pooper out of this. I had an interest rate of 4.25% that was expiring. The rate lock, they call it, was expiring on that closing day. So if I didn't close, I would lose this rate lock, which you think, who cares? I mean, it's not like rates went up. That ain't how the market works, unfortunately. If your rate lock expires, you get what's called worst case pricing, unless you want to go to a different lender and start the whole process over again. Well, worst case pricing, FYI, was 5.125%, or pay $7,000 in points to close the deal and maintain the 4.25% that I had. That's insane, and it's their fault. They weren't out. If they were out, I closed the deal. They're not out. They just cost me $7,000. Instead, at 6 p.m. when they were supposed to be out per the contract, I went by and kind of like looked around a little bit and tried to see if I saw anything. You can pretty much see everything on this place, okay? Mattresses, TVs, people inside, people in the kitchen cooking. That place was still full of people. And I'm like, whew, dodged a bullet on that one. I guess the seller owes me $7,000 now. Problem is, seller didn't want to pay. By the way, the price was supposed to go up yesterday on the courses linked below, but I'm trying to figure out which design to use. Which do you guys like better? Should I go with something like design A, where we kind of go in this like stay-at-home study direction, or should I go with design B? I gotta make this change, but I'm a little torn. I'm not sure which way to go. So at this point, I basically got myself a squatter in the property. The problem is, the person living in the property and this roommate situation going on in the property, those people were not the seller. And on top of them not being the seller, they were not taking advantage of getting their 2 free stocks with Webull if they just deposit $100. Link below, ends at the end of the month. I don't know how many times I had to tell them that. Because somebody had passed away, and that's the reason this property was selling, this property was actually being handled by what's known as a court-appointed administrator. So the court-appointed administrator was the seller, which a court-appointed administrator can be, and in this case was, an attorney, which sucks. Because if you're in a legal dispute and the other dude is an attorney, you're sad. So here's how I handled the situation. The first thing I did is I looked and sort of reviewed the situation and thought, okay, this person, by the way, and I hadn't told you this, but every single time I went to the property, this person was giving me like really evil looks, like they didn't like me for some reason. But I sat down and realized the person in the house isn't my enemy. They're the ones who are supposed to be out. They're the ones who are supposed to have all of their stuff out, but they're actually not my enemy. What I really need to do is get the person in the property happy with me, realizing that I'm not the enemy. I'm not an evil person. Unfortunately, the problem is right over here, not the person living there, which is a really important distinction to make because guess what the person living there can do if they hate your guts right before you make a move? They could put stuff down the drains, or older drains. They can happen to be a little rough with the furniture on the way out and make some more holes for you. There are a lot of things that people do. I mean, I've heard stories where people have taken fish, like new fish from the store, thrown it up into the attic and closed the door to sort of the attic space, and like 3 days later, the whole house smells like rotten fish, and you have no idea why. There are a lot of things. The roommate was a smoker. He would only smoke outside, but if he didn't like me, he could just start smoking inside if he wanted to. But the point is, if the people living in the property don't like you, you might end up with a worse property than you bargained for. Now, again, this is why I like buying places in a wedge where I'm protected. If crazy things happen, like the market falls, or crazy things happen where, you know, like people cause extra damage or surprises come up, that protects me because I have extra money in the deal, but it doesn't mean I want to give away my wedge. Like, I'm not just going, here, I'll solve all these problems with my wedge, and then all of a sudden, crap, I got no wedge left, and then I may as well just be buying Tesla stock.
And it's gone.
So I decided to confront the occupant. Hi there. Is Susan here by chance?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great. Is she available for a second?
Sue?
Hey Sue, Kevin here. We just wondering when everybody was kind of planning on taking off so we could close. The footage you see here is me knocking on the door at 8 p.m. on the day of closing, and what you're gonna see is I actually end up sitting down and pulling up a chair to talk to the person that's there. I empathized with their situation, I understood what was going on with them, and I wanted them to realize that, hey, I'm not the big evil buyer here. Here are the reasons why you can't stay here. Here are the implications that happen. When the contract date and the closing date gets missed, this is what it costs me. And I'm mostly just trying to be as reasonable, fair as possible, but also be an ear for her. Usually people who are in this situation, especially if there was a death in part of this family, they're in an emotional state, and oftentimes they don't have somebody to talk to. And so I wanted to be that person who could be there for her, at least at that time being. I mean, the other option is I could knock on the door and just yell at her and be, you should get the F out of my house, what are you doing here? But what is that gonna accomplish? All that's gonna do is have them really hate me. Not that you need a story or want a story, but you got a story.
Oh, I've got.
You got a story. Well, I'll let you get back to your night.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Sorry if I was rude earlier.
Don't worry about it. It's stressful. By the way, I'll be releasing this entire video in the investing course later this month. At the end of the entire conversation, we even ended up exchanging a hug. So now all of a sudden, phase one of solving this problem. And I feel bad for her. I like her. I don't have anything against those people, even though they're technically squatting on the closing day. It does me no good to be mean or make them aggravated. I don't win that way, especially in California. I know it seems like, if you don't get out, I'm gonna evict you, and I'm gonna show you how well I negotiate. I've found you can't negotiate when you don't have leverage. And if I can't evict because the courts are closed, and the people have possession of the property and can make my life miserable, I have zero leverage. All I could do is be nice. And this is what I teach in my courses linked below, is the psychology of investing, the psychology of working with people to solve problems. So here we go, smiley face, smiley face. Now we got the big boy to deal with, the attorney. And this is where the lawsuit part comes in. I had to figure out, how could I get that attorney in a crappy and disadvantaged situation? Because all I had at the moment was me, this sucks, like I'm up against the cost of $7,000, and I've got people that are living in the property, at least they're happier now, but I still gotta deal with this seller. How am I gonna deal with an attorney? So the first step in dealing with problems is you always start by being nice. That's the best way to start. Even though I'm getting shafted here and I have a $7,000 fee that I just got hooked with because they missed the closing date, You start with nice. Hey, no worries, I could still close. We're still ready to close. I'll deal with rearranging all the contractors and pushing everything back a week to get work started. No worries, I'll deal with all of that, like this stuff happens. If you wouldn't mind, just pay the extra costs that I'm incurring now because of these higher loan fees and all the new notaries. I think we had to do loan docs like 3 times because of all of this, which every time you sign with a notary, it costs money. So, hey, cover that, we're good to close. Seller says no. I go, all right, well, I'm not going to close unless my costs are covered. Seller says, well, what if we give you $1,500? I said, no, these are your costs. I'm sorry. And at this point, you kind of start going, this isn't really working out. The nice thing isn't working out. But what do I have? I have this beautiful thing that I don't have with the squatter. I have this thing called leverage. And think about the leverage that I have as a buyer who's not closing the deal. When I don't close a deal, guess who doesn't get paid? The attorney doesn't get paid. Guess who also doesn't get paid? The seller, or potentially the squatter who might be getting some of the proceeds, the people living there, they don't get their money from the sale. So now all of a sudden, I have this leverage in that by not closing, all of a sudden, they're not getting paid, the seller's not getting paid, the agents involved are not getting paid. All of a sudden, there's a lot of pressure from people who might need money, and the deal isn't closing because they're not agreeing to pay for the fees that they caused, that they created. Then I got a call, and the attorney said, Kevin, if you don't close this deal right away, we will keep your $15,000 deposit and put this property back on the market and sell it to somebody else. And guess what I said after that? Nothing. I said nothing. Because Warren Buffett says the best time to tell somebody to go to hell is tomorrow. If you have leverage, what helps you is time, because these people get more anxious while you have leverage and the glory of time. There's no need for you to lash out and whip back. Here's what I did instead. Step 1, I reviewed my options. I could close the deal and just be done with the problem, but then I'm gonna lose $7,000. And that to me was no thanks, not interested. I'm not dying to get into another renovation right now. That can wait. So that wasn't interesting to me. This meant I was gonna go in the direction of forcing the seller's hand and doing whatever I could to get compensated. So I hit up my lender to check out, hey, what kind of loan options do I have? I know that we really wanted that 4.25 rate, but what happens if instead of a 4.25, I go ahead and take something like a 5.5 rate? And I ended up finding out that by taking a 5.5% rate, would end up getting paid $2,000 in the form of a lender credit. Now you might be thinking, why would you take 5.5? That's insane, like rates are so much lower. Exactly. This means after I fix up the place, I could just do a refinance and probably refinance this down to a 3.6% with no cost, and I still get $2,000 from the loan. So you gotta know how to play the game a little bit. The risky part is if rates skyrocket, then this isn't gonna work, then I'm stuck with a 5.5. But I don't think anybody thinks rates are skyrocketing right now, so I'm okay with this play. Now keep this in mind, I've technically solved the $7,000 problem. I'm taking a higher interest rate and I'm getting paid money for taking a higher interest rate, and I'll just refinance in the future. But I'm still inheriting risk. If rates go up, I get screwed, and I have to pay higher payments on the property for the next 6 months until I can close a refinance. As such, I still wanted the sellers to compensate me, and from their point of view, I was still out $7,000. And this is where part 2 of my response came in. Knowing that the dispute is over $7,000 in the state of California, that falls within the scope of small claims court, which in small claims court, you cannot be represented by an attorney, which means if I sue the estate, the attorney representing the estate, I don't believe can be there. But even if he could show up in court, he's not doing this for charity. Somebody's gonna have to pay his $300 an hour. And I'll tell you, $300 an hour, This guy spends 20 hours preparing for court. Boom, he may as well have just given me the 7 grand. The other thing that's really cool about small claims is it only cost me $50 to sue somebody in small claims, and I could do it all myself. I could fill out the paperwork in like 20 minutes. So here's exactly how I ended up resolving this. First, I ended up demanding $5,000, which made them feel like I was coming down from $7,000 in costs to $5,000. Even though that $7,000 in costs didn't really exist anymore. I only had the downside of having to do a refinance in 6 months. But that $5,000 made it seem like I was coming down from $7,000 in costs to now a negotiated or compromised position of $5,000. It's like, oh wow, okay, and instead of Kevin demanding everything, he's demanding less now, okay. But at the same time as I sent that email, I sent an email to the attorney directly because I just Googled his name and got the attorney's email and sent him a letter saying, hey, just curious, what's the best address to serve you legal papers at? Which is a big cue to an attorney. Oh crap, this guy's actually gonna serve me with a lawsuit. Yes, I technically didn't have that $7,000 damage anymore, but that is the value. $7,000 represents the value of the higher interest rate I took. Remember, I locked 4.25. The value of me taking a 5.5 set by actual licensed lenders was $7,000. So even though I'm technically not coming out of pocket $7,000 and I'm still asking for money to compensate for that, I am technically still losing $7,000 in value. I'm just solving for it on both ends. The day after I sent that email, everybody was out of the house. All the crap was out of the house. I got $5,000 from the seller. I got $2,000 from the lender. And all I have to do is refinance in 6 months. So unless rates go sky high, which is my only leftover risk, I think this squatter nightmare ended up working out A-okay. By the way, if you're still here, I may as well show you the place and give you the tour. Here's a 360 tour I did of the property. You'll see it's a solid 4-bedroom, classic wedge style deal. I mean, look at the kitchen, the nasty tiling, the old broken kind of cabinets, the older gold finishes. But hey, you know, nothing that a little paint, flooring, and some new finishes can't solve, which basically puts $90,000 in my pocket. That is, once I fix this place up, the day I'm done with my fix-up, my net worth goes up by $90,000, which is almost twice what I actually spent in fixing the place up. Now, I say that my goal is $50,000 in renovations. Honestly, I hope I could bring it in even less. The less I could bring it in, the better, because I don't want to overspend. Though I know there are some things that may come up as surprises, so I always plan for the worst case, and if it ends up better, perfect.